lovely day to be at the studio, wouldn't you agree?
Yep. Only thing that could ruin this would be a giant floating object appearing in the sky.
That's oddly specific. Why would you say that?
Because it's a giant floating object appearing in the sky.
What?
Ah!
What is that thing?
I don't know. But I feel like it's going to become my problem.
Greetings, fellow carbon-based life forms. I am... My name is incomprehensible to your human minds, so you may refer to me by the name... George.
Wait, are you an alien?
Of course it is! What does it look like?
I hail from another planet within your solar system. My research into human culture tells me that you humans find the name of this planet quite amusing in a juvenile sense. I am a native of the planet Neptune.
That felt contrived.
Well, why have you come to Earth?
I have come as an ambassador to the Earth. The people of Neptune greatly respect and revere humanity.
Why in God's name would you do that?
Ignore him.
To show this reverence, we wish to share with you our favorite example of human culture and allow it to serve as a symbol of our respect.
Hey, I can get behind that. What is it?
It is a classic of human storytelling, combining the artistry of traditional earthen tales with the technological prowess of modern human ingenuity. A tale of humanity's greatest warrior heroes, such as Jack, the son of Nicole, Martin the Short, and of course, the honored human religious figure, Danny DeVito.
Bad vibes from this, but go on.
We have brought it to you in the traditional informational storage format of the silicon discus. I will now telepathically shift it to you from the ship's glove box.
What in the... Ah!
That's terrifyingly convenient.
We ask that you share our love of this cultural icon with the rest of the world.
Well, I've made worse videos for weirder people. At least they don't have to wrestle anyone. No, 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 no!
What's the matter?
Mars attacks! Mars freaking attacks! This is your favorite piece of human culture? This?
Of course, it is humanity's greatest artistic achievement.
If I wasn't already infuriated, I would feel insulted by that statement.
Come on, it can't be that bad. I'll shut up now.
I am not gonna make a video on this piece of utter filth.
If you don't do it, we will blow this planet into incomprehensibly small pieces of space dust and skin any creatures that survive through our personal skin collection.
He'll make the video.
No, I won't.
Dude, they're gonna kill us all.
Death is a preferable alternative to this movie.
For the love of God, just make the video.
Fine. Roll the intro. I want to get this done with. Mars Attacks is a 1996 black comedy film directed by Tim, previously featured on this channel, Burton, and written by Johnathan Gems, whose other works include literally nothing else. Yes, this is the only film this guy ever wrote, or at least the only one that got produced, because he has written some other scripts. Most notably a script for a proposed Beetlejuice sequel titled, and I'm not making this up, Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. We're in good hands with this movie, I can already tell. The movie was based on a Topps trading card series, and it was actually Gems who pitched the movie to Burton, who at the time was working on his 1994 film, Ed Wood, based on the infamous filmmaker of the same name, who you might recognize as the creator of such acclaimed films as Plan 9 from Outer Space and Glenn or Glenda. Yeah, that guy. Burton saw this as the perfect opportunity to pay homage to the films of Ed Wood, as well as other 1950s sci-fi B-movies. Tim presumably looking at such movies and thinking, you know what, I could do worse.
How bad can I be?
Gems and Burton would then assemble an all-star ensemble cast of A-list actors, including Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, Jack Black, and Danny DeVito, to name a few, all of whom would waste their talent in this god-awful movie. If you're wondering why I seem to have such an unabashed hatred of this movie, it's because I've actually already seen it once before, in the far-off year of 2016. Maybe it was 2015, I honestly don't remember. You see, my grandfather in his infinite wisdom allowed a young me to watch this movie during a visit to his house. And even as a stupid, moronic child who hadn't yet developed a sense of anxiety or existential dread, absolutely hated it. Upon release, the film was compared to the movie Independence Day for a number of reasons, including the similar release dates and the literally everything else. However, the movie was not a parody of Independence Day, as Burton himself was unaware of the movie's existence and was surprised at how similar the two films were. It's like walking down the street and seeing someone wearing the same outfit as you, but instead of a flannel jacket and jeans, it's a multi-million-dollar movie. Upon release, the film received a mixed reception from most critics, and utterly bombed at the US box office. And when I say bombed, I mean bombed! See, the film had an initial production budget of $80 million, and Warner Brothers would spend another $20 million on marketing, bringing the total production cost to $100 million. Upon release, combining all international earnings, the film made a combined total of just over $101 million. Good God!
I am never gonna financially recover from this.
To give the film some credit though, while it failed in the US, it did perform slightly better both critically and financially in other regions, mostly Europe, proving once again that the opinions of Europeans should be immediately disregarded. And that's about it for the film's history. Tim had a bad idea, it was deemed bad, lost a whole bunch of money, and then faded into obscurity, not even really gaining a cult following. But it has been 30 years since the movie came out, and 2015/2016 was a long time ago. Maybe we were all wrong about Mars Attacks. There must be something of value here. There's no way something with this much money and this many big names connected to it could be completely worthless, right? Well, I've stalled long enough. Let's ruin not just mine, but everyone else's 4th of July by taking a look at Mars Attacks. Roll film. Before the movie even opens, it quickly sets in just how bad of an idea this is. Oh, God. It's gonna be utterly miserable. Oh, God, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it! I don't want to do it! It's gonna be a waste of an hour and a half! I do this stuff for you people. After that brief crisis, the movie actually opens in Kentucky, where instead of a bucket of fried chicken, we find a herd of flaming beef. Okay, shout out to this movie for not starting the way I remember. What the heck was that? I have no idea why that happened or what it was supposed to mean. I think it was just supposed to be shocking to get people hooked so that they wouldn't leave during the opening credits. Speaking of the opening credits, it's time for those, where we get to see just how many actors will not be putting this film on their resume. You may be seeing all of these big famous names and expecting at least a few good performances. I have no idea why you would be expecting this. Did you not hear the previous joke? So the Martian saucers begin departing from the spicy hot Cheeto planet, making their way towards Earth. And I must admit, the music for this sequence is actually pretty good. In fact, the entire soundtrack is actually really good. Danny Elfman did it, so that's kind of a given, but I'm still shocked how good it is, especially considering the rest of the movie. You will see what I'm talking about very, very soon. We then cut to another hive of inhuman creatures attempting to subjugate humanity, that being Washington, D.C., where we're introduced to President Jack Nicholson. He has an actual name in the movie, but I don't know what it is. I'm just gonna call him Jack Nicholson because he's Jack Nicholson. That's his character. He's looking over some pictures of the approaching Martian saucers, allowing us to get acquainted with one of this movie's cast of characters. This consisting of Press Secretary Jerry, played by Martin Short, who spends the entire movie looking at the camera like he wants to rip out my liver and eat it. General Decker, played by Rob Steger, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who is maybe the only sane and rational character in the entire movie, and also kind of looks like the Dracula Flow guy.
They must have amnesia. They forgot that I'm him.
General Casey, played by Paul Winfield, don't get attached to him. And finally, Professor Donald Kessler, played by Pierce Brosnan. I'm not even gonna write a joke for him. The mere thought of Brosnan's career going from GoldenEye to this should be funny enough. So in maybe the most unrealistic part of the entire movie, an American president does not want to go to war and instead wishes to pursue peace and cooperation with the Martians. This plan being supported by Professor Bond, liver-eating Jerry, and Casey. Meanwhile, General Drac wants to mobilize the armed forces immediately for war, and like I said, only sane character. Now we cut to the incredibly unimportant characters of President Nicholson's wife and daughter, who are so unimportant that I'm not going to say who plays them and you're going to have to figure it out yourself. Now we cut to Las Vegas and are introduced to our second cast of characters. This includes retired boxer Byron Williams, played by Jim Brown, who... Oh no. We're also introduced to Byron's estranged family, as well as weirdo hippie lady Barbara and her casino owner husband Art Land, who only exists to be an unlikable jerk. This is a running theme for much of this movie's characters. Well, the Vegas scene is over, I guess. Let's cut to New York for some more annoying character introductions and a community guidelines violation jump scare. Why do I have a feeling I'm gonna be cheering when I watch— Oh, I can't show that! I'm gonna try and speed through the rest of the character introductions because they all boil down to varying degrees of annoying morons. There's news reporter Jason Something and his girlfriend Natalie Something, played by Michael J. Fox and Sarah Jessica Parker respectively. Grungy teenage weirdo Richie, played by Lucas Haas, I hope I said his name correctly, and the rest of his borderline abusive trailer trash family, including his brother Jack Black and his grandma. Oh, and Danny DeVito is here. If it seems like this movie is full of annoying and awful characters, that's because it is. There's only a few characters in this entire cast that I would consider likable. Everyone else is just a total nuisance that makes the film miserable to watch anytime they're on screen. Remember how awful these characters are, and we'll be discussing this at length when the bodies start dropping. Anyway, back to the plot. President Nicholson believes that America can handle the truth, and decides to make the approaching Martians known to the public by delivering an address to the nation. Everyone is just kinda chill about the arriving Martians, the characters reacting in various different ways, ranging from hippie worship to hotel building, and the most obvious response of having redneck Jack Black join the army.
Prime cuts go on sale at noon.
Building code under fire.
Now it's time for the movie to get insanely boring as we cut back and forth between the characters' various mundane existences. This is kind of important as it sets up certain parts of the story, like Byron's quest to reunite with his family, or how Jerry can somehow be creepier than he already was. I am sickened beyond comprehension. Now we cut to Natalie Something and her dog interviewing Professor Brosnan. I utterly hate every second of this scene because it is just so thoroughly pointless, and I feel like I am actively wasting my time by watching it. An interview with an actual rock would be more interesting.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Already Too Late Show. I'm your host, Soulless Corporate Shill. They say a rolling stone gathers no moss, and my guest today is a shining example of this. He is a cornerstone of the local community and a staunch advocate for mineral rights. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rock. A pleasure to have you on the show today, Rock. Charming. Now, Rock, what do you think made you the rock you are today? Alright, that's it. I can't work this.
I think this scene is irritating to me because I can't tell if it's supposed to be funny or an actual serious moment of exposition. It's set up and played like it's supposed to be a joke, except there is no actual joke, so I'm just sitting here waiting for the movie to get to the point. But the scene is also written like an exposition dump, and that's mostly what it is. Barbie girl over here asking inane questions while Brosnan spouts philosophical nonsense about the Martians. Except it's not really an exposition dump because everything he says is philosophical nonsense about the Martians that means nothing! Oh, and Brosnan has a thing for Barbie girl, I guess. That's important and not disturbing in any way whatsoever. Thankfully, after about 20 minutes of nothing, something finally begins to happen in this movie as television signals across the world are interrupted by a message from the Martian leader. This gives us our first look at the Martians, and yep, we're gonna have to look at this for the next hour. I know they're supposed to look weird, but god, they look weird! And the Martians are freaky too. Hey! Now we cut to the president and his all-star crew discussing the anatomy of the Martians. Apparently from that one 10-second long video, they have managed to deduce 3 things. The Martians are carbon-based life forms, much like humans and literally every living creature on Earth. They also breathe nitrogen, and based on their cartoonishly large exposed brains, they may possess telepathic abilities. Only the nitrogen thing is relevant in any way, just ignore all the other stuff. The question on everybody's mind though, do they come in peace? Well, according to Brosnan, based on the Martians' technological advancements and high intelligence, they must be peaceful, while the human race, an aggressive and violent species, is much more of a danger to the Martians than the Martians are to us, blah blah blah.
Shut up, hippie.
So after Brosnan's give peace a chance spiel, we get a couple of unimportant side character scenes that amount to literally nothing, before cutting to the trailer trash family waving goodbye to Jack Black. Also, this old lady is old and can't remember stuff. That's funny, right?
I know. Thomas.
See, the joke is old people. Like, what was the point? There's no joke there! You didn't set anything up! This entire sequence is just so horribly depressing. Grunge Lord Richie is being constantly abused by his family, the only person who treats him vaguely decently being the grandma, who barely even understands what's going on around her. It's not even like funny depressing, it's just depressing, and it gets worse the more you look at it. You know what I want to see when watching an alien movie directly inspired by 50s B movies made by Tim, my movies are known for their style and color palette, Burton? A mentally unwell old woman being slowly wheeled through a beige retirement home by an abused youth. You can argue that this movie is a black comedy and therefore supposed to be messed up because it's funny, and okay, yeah, you can argue that. However, counterpoint, this isn't funny. There's no comedy, it's just black. Speaking of black, Byron has a scene for some reason where a casino owner guy tries to convince him to partake in some shady dealings. This never comes up again and goes nowhere. The only reason I brought it up was so I could transition from the last scene. The actual story is taking place back at the White House, where Nicholson and co. have received a transmission from the Martians, revealing the location of their planned landing. Despite General Decker's continued insistence that we should be doing literally anything even remotely intelligent, Nicholson gives the task of greeting the Martians to General Casey. Decker is understandably infuriated and steps out to cement himself as my favorite character.
They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Liberals, intellectuals, peacemongers, idiots!
Hello? Base department?
And now for the only cool shot in the entire movie, as Casey and the Fun Squad move out to prepare the Martian welcome party. The welcome party is attended by many, including Hippie Lady, who watches from afar, the various news reporter characters, and of course Jack Black. And just when I was worried that nothing was gonna happen for the rest of the movie, something finally happens. Nice, Tomorrowland music. Oh boy, that CGI. Now, if you think that the CGI here is bad, then don't worry, because it will get much worse later. Now we get our first close-up look at the Martians, and I don't hate the design of these guys. They definitely fit the B-movie aesthetic that the movie is trying and failing to go for. Plus, Frank Welker provides their voices, and while I regret having to add him to the list of talent wasted by this movie, at least there is talent somewhere here. But good God, on a kebab do they look cheap. Which I know is kind of the point. Burton himself said that the goal was to make them look as cheap and fake as possible, and yeah, they certainly do! The original plan during production to achieve this fake-looking aesthetic was to have the Martians be animated in stop motion, but that plan fell through due to budget constraints and scheduling issues. I think stop motion would have been a much better approach because now instead of being fake-looking, the effects look fake. I know that sounds insanely stupid, but let me explain. When stop motion effects look bad, they still look bad, but they're endearing. They have charm. When CGI effects look bad, they just look bad. It dips into that uncanny valley, where it looks real enough to set off that part of the brain that says it's not real. There's no charm to bad CGI. It doesn't look funny, it looks unnatural and unsettling. In fact, I think that's indicative of the movie as a whole, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. For now, there is active clown-to-clown communication occurring. I forgot to mention it earlier because I didn't care, but there's this one scientist guy who builds a human-to-Martian translator. Fun fact, the guy who voices this translator is actually the guy who would go on to voice Ghostface in the Scream movies. This is irrelevant, but I found it interesting and I need to take joy somewhere here. The meeting between Casey and the Martian ambassador goes off without a hitch. They successfully greet one another, and thanks to the translator, we learn that the Martians do indeed come in peace, eliciting celebrations throughout the crowd. And so, that was the story of how humans and Martians came to coexist peacefully, bringing forth a new age of prosperity. And hey, what's this movie called again? Oh, right, should have seen that coming. So after almost half an hour of mind-numbing boredom and a few moments where the emergency stash of whiskey I keep in the office started to look rather appealing, Mars finally, does the thing. And you can tell that they were starting to run out of money around this point because none of these soldiers are actually firing their weapons. You can hear the sound of gunshots and you can see them ready to fire, but you don't actually see them shoot. I know this is the most minor thing in the world to complain about, but I don't care. It upset me and I'm gonna complain about it. I will be fair though, there are a couple of neat shots of Jack Black / Michael J. Fox running through the war zone. Based on these exciting action shots, I'm sure that these characters will play a major role in the— oh, nope, Jack Black is dead, okay. Well then, Michael J. Fox will surely be okay, no, he's dead too, god dang it. So the Martians have accomplished something, I guess, bravely retreating from the scene while abducting Natalie something and her dog. I'm not sure what the tactical advantage of showing up, killing a bunch of people, and then leaving is, but it seems to have worked. Insert vaguely topical Afghanistan joke here. Back at the White House, everyone is acting like complete buffoons, so business as usual, I guess. Decker once again acts as the sole voice of reason, advocating for immediate nuclear retaliation to what is very clearly an act of war. But of course, Brosnan comes in with his peace-loving nonsense, believing that what happened was a simple cultural misunderstanding, movie's words not mine, and that they should try to reach out to the Martians and apologize.
Apologizing is for the weak and wrong, which is why you should do it to me because you are weak and wrong.
Now look, there's trying to be diplomatic, and then there's just being stupid. This is just being stupid. And I know there's gonna be at least one person who says, you're taking it too seriously. It's supposed to be dumb. That's the joke. Alright, counterpoint. It's not funny. I know that this is part of the joke. The movie is making fun of other movies. It's parody. But there is no joke. It plays the stupidity of these characters completely straight and with no self-awareness. So I'm not laughing because the characters are stupid and the movie knows it. I'm screaming at my screen because these characters are morons and they're making the worst possible choices in what is played as a serious story. You can argue that it's just trying to do what the sci-fi B movies that it's trying to pay homage to did, and yeah, that's fair, but it's completely misunderstanding why those were so enjoyable. B movies are funny not because they're trying to be, but because they're trying and failing to be serious. That's the nature of ironic enjoyment. It's so bad that you can't help but enjoy how awful it is. You're not watching Manos: The Hands of Fate because of its amazing cinematography, you're watching it because it's a disaster hastily slapped together by less than amateurs, and that's funny. You're not watching Invasion of the Neptune Men because of its gripping narrative, you're watching it because it's a fever dream with no coherent storyline, bad fight scenes, and a Hitler building, and that's funny. You're not watching Shark Tale because no one watches that. The point I'm trying to make is that failing to be serious is funny. That's why B movies are funny. This movie is trying to be funny and failing, and when something fails to be funny, it doesn't magically become funny, it's just not funny. Kinda turned into a video essay a bit there. Let's get back on track. So Nicholson sends a message to the Martians, who for some reason all wear sparkly red Speedos and are fascinated by dead birds. The Martian leader laughs at Nicholson's message, thus giving us this totally necessary close-up and a cut to Hippie Lady. Hippie Lady, after seeing the Martian attack earlier, has renounced her hippie lifestyle and has begun her journey towards becoming a somewhat likable character. This will all be relevant a bit later, but for now, let's cut to Brosnan in a silly outfit dissecting a Martian. I'll give you free guesses as to whether or not this is important. Got your answer? It's not. Moving on. Now we cut back to the Martians for some reason. You remember earlier how I mentioned they abducted that Natalie lady and her dog? On a mildly relevant note, you want to see something indescribably horrifying?
Ah, sweet. Man-made horrors beyond my comprehension.
So I'm well into that emergency stash of whiskey now. Let's skip the unnecessary scenes and get back to what remains of the plot. The Martians have responded to Nicholson's message, formally apologizing for the literal massacre that they perpetrated. The Martian ambassador wishes to speak with Congress, clearly wishing to speak with fellow inhuman creatures, and so the next day a televised meeting is organized. The ambassador takes the floor to speak, and in a surprising turn of events, murders everyone. What did you think was gonna happen? Oh, and also Brosnan gets abducted. That's fun. And now, ladies, gentlemen, and otherwise, it is with great pride and a sense of mild annoyance that I present to you the one line I laughed at.
They blew up Congress.
That was the one line I laughed at. Alright, so the situation has escalated, and Nicholson heads to the fun bunker to finally take action. There is the briefest glimmer of hope that someone is finally gonna make a smart choice.
Oh, that's your executive order authorizing full use of our nuclear deterrence.
Yes! Followed by immediately remembering what movie I'm watching.
No!
So Nicholson still refuses to do anything about the actual war going on, instead choosing to deliver an incredibly awkward and barely coherent televised speech, attempting to reassure the public of their government's ability to not mess up the situation that they have already messed up. I'm sure I'm glad that this is only a movie and something like this couldn't happen in real life. So now we cut back to the Martians, and whoever thought that a movie, any movie, needed Pierce Brosnan's decapitated head professing its love to a Chihuahua woman, please report to the nearest medical facility that still performs lobotomies and request one immediately, for the good of all mankind. This scene is pointless, not funny, and frankly, just plain wrong.
You know, you could have asked for my consent before forcing me to see something so completely and utterly disgusting.
And just when you think you've seen the strangest thing this movie has to offer, not only have you, but then this thing appears looking like the Return the Slab guy dressed in drag. Creepy Jerry being creepy is finally relevant because he's into this thing for some reason, and I'm just gonna spare you all this entire scene. Drag Ramses here as a Martian in disguise who kills kills Jerry by biting off his finger and then tries to kill Nicholson and his wife.
You're not gonna shoot a puppy, are you, Jack?
Yeah, in the face. Why?
The Martian intruder tries to kill Nicholson, but because he's the closest thing we have to a main character, the Martian gets shot to pieces and Nicholson survives, enraging the rest of the Martians who begin actually attacking things instead of just whatever this is. Because America is the only country that really matters in the grand scheme of things, the Martians first attack the White House. This entire scene is just absolute chaos, and not in a fun or amusing way, more so in a, I've been sitting here for about an hour now, and at this point I think I would rather have my teeth pulled out by a 5-year-old with a pair of rusty pliers way. The movie is still worse. Around here is where the movie is going to start killing off a lot of extraneous, annoying characters, chief among them the president's wife and the casino owner. In case you can't tell, the movie is trying to do something a lot of bad horror and slasher movies will do, where they introduce a cast of unlikable characters so that the audience wants them to die horribly because they're awful people and therefore deserve it, while the few likable, or at least better characters survive for the finale. It's a good idea in theory, especially with a movie like this that's supposed to be more comedic, because it means you can make the focus on creatively and brutally killing off the terrible characters. But it's an awful idea in practice for 2 reasons. One, because now I have no reason to care about any of the characters and I'm just waiting for them to die. And 2, it means that the enjoyment of the movie is now tied to how fun the deaths are, and none of the deaths here are fun. With a few exceptions, up until now, most of the deaths here are just people being shot, and even when the deaths do start increasing in variety, they still aren't any fun. Plus, I've been sitting here for so long watching these bumbling meat sacks flail around pretending to be characters that I'm too tired to enjoy anyone's gruesome death. Don't believe me? Let's see what live reaction Reagan thinks of Casino Dude's casino blowing up and him getting crushed by the wreckage. Okay. So anyway, after a wife crushing and a casino implosion, we cut to Tom Jones. The Washington plot is going to take a bit of a back seat, as now we're going to focus on that Byron guy. Remember him? From like an hour ago? He needs to get to Washington to find his family. Luckily, Hippie Lady has completed her likable character transformation and has obtained a plane that she plans to use to flee to Tahoe. I gotta say, great choice of place to wait out the apocalypse. Tahoe is great this time of year. Unfortunately though, the Martians appear out of nowhere and begin slaughtering everyone in sight. Strangely enough though, Tom Jones is spared. I was totally expecting him to be brutally killed off for non-existent laughs, like in the TF2 comic, but without any kind of humor and with an actually finished story. But strangely enough, he, spoiler alert for the 2 people who still care, lives to the end. Was it just in his contract that he couldn't die, or was he worth more than the other celebrities forced into this movie? Speaking of celebrities forced into this movie, here's Danny DeVito. Remember him? That 1-second scene he was in at the start of the movie? Don't expect him to inject any sort of joy or humor into the corpse that is this film though, because despite being one of the biggest names on the movie's poster, he barely gets any screen time. So now we've got the average D&D group here, consisting of the human male fighter, the bard, a dwarf, the cleric, and Egyptian woman. No, I don't know where she came from, but she's here now, I guess. You know what? We were focusing on that plot line for a while now. Let's cut instead to Richie and his remaining trailer trash family. No, actually, you know what? Let's cut back to the Washington plot. Might as well at this point. Pacing is dead, and so is my hope for tomorrow, but at least the Martians destroyed France. Well, at least they destroyed France. That's pretty good. Maybe the Martians are the good guys. They destroyed Congress, they destroyed France. So finally, finally, Nicholson is convinced by Decker to actually use the nuclear option and deploy the US nuclear arsenal. I believe it is time for what the kids call an epic gamer moment. So they finally launch the nukes. The Martians are able to stop one, but luckily we've got more, and they're not launching more. Why are they not launching more? Are you seriously just giving up? That was only 1 nuke. You have more. Yeah, they stopped 1, so launch multiple. There's this funny little thing we have called a nuclear triad that ensures we can bomb anyone and anything back to the Stone Age without a second thought. That's not even considering the other nuclear powers in the world. Why do you think NATO exists? For fun? Russia and China both have been waiting for an excuse to use their nukes. Get everyone involved. You get every nuke on the planet and throw them at those scrawny little brain rats like it's the opening of a Fallout game. Okay, so nukes didn't work, I guess, even though they totally should have, and all hope appears lost. As the Martians begin rampaging across the world, destroying all they come across and watching Dukes of Hazzard for some reason. I don't even know anymore. Let's get back to the trailer park plot. Richie, being one of the few likable characters, decides decides he's gonna leave his abusive parents to die and is gonna go rescue his grandma. And he is leaving them to die, because as soon as he leaves, their trailer gets picked up by this bad CGI and smashed. I mean, we don't necessarily see them die, so maybe there's hope they return in the sequel. We've been focusing on this plot for too long now. Back to Vegas, where I was really spot on with that D&D comparison, as the group immediately begins to fall apart as one member questions the plan. Danny DeVito flees and is found by a Martian, immediately choosing to try and defect to them. Okay, that could be funny. Danny DeVito working for the Martians. Maybe we'll... Oh, nope, he's dead. Great. Well, I suppose we should honor his last request.
When I'm dead, just throw me in the trash.
What am I doing with my life?
Back to Richie for a bit now. If it seems like we're jumping between these plot lines rather abruptly, it's because we are. There is no joke, we just are. So the Martians are destroying a retirement home. The elderly just ticked them off, I guess. I wonder what live reaction Reagan thinks of this.
I'm so hungry right now.
The Martians nearly manage to annihilate Richie's grandma, because screw her in particular, I guess, but luckily he runs in just in time, causing the grandma to do that thing everyone who's ever used wired headphones done, where even the slightest movement yanks them out and exposes everyone around you to whatever weird stuff you're listening to. In this case, it's Slim Whitman yodeling, revealing the Martians' only real weakness, as it apparently causes their heads to explode. In the business, we call this a non sequitur. Back to Washington, I guess, where the Martians are about to breach the bunker and Nicholson has decided to never close his mouth again. Hey, wanna see what someone with no attention span looks like?
I know for a fact that there are more nukes. You could launch... Oh, he's got an Uzi. That's pretty cool.
The Martians enter the bunker, and the best character in the entire movie decides to go out on a high note by dual-wielding 1911s, quoting Churchill, screaming how America will win, and giving one last middle finger before dying by being shrunken and stepped on. In maybe the only death where I actually felt something. Rest in peace to a true American hero. So, of course, the Martians kill everyone, except Nicholson, who survives to give one last speech about how we should all just get along. And it almost seems to work, as the Martian leader is moved to tears, offering a handshake. I say it almost works because remember, we're watching Mars Attacks. There is no hope beneath the black sun that is this movie. Nicholson gets stabbed by a fake hand and now he's dead. I'm jealous. At least one of the 3 plot lines have been wrapped up. Let's see if we can't wrap up the other 2. Back in Vegas, the Dream Team have found their escape vehicle, but the runway is blocked by some conveniently placed Martians. Byron is gonna run up and distract them so that the rest of them can escape. He does this by challenging the lead Martian to a fist fight. I don't know why he does this when he's got a gun. In fact, I don't know why they don't just run them down with the plane. I guess it was just so they have an excuse to use Byron's backstory before he gets killed off. The distraction does work though, allowing the rest of the team to escape thanks to Byron's heroic sacrifice.
Well, it sure was heroic. Too bad I don't care!
While that's all been happening, Richie has been playing the Slim Whitman record over the radio, allowing whatever remains of humanity to begin properly fighting back against the Martians. Now we get a montage of the Martians dying off, and despite the awful effects, seriously, this explosion looks like something I would make. This sequence is incredibly satisfying. Partly because it feels like this should have happened hours ago, and partly because it means that the movie is going to be over soon. It's not going down without one last piece of horrific imagery, as it forces us to watch Brosnan's severed head make out with the other severed head.
This is disgusting!
Alright, let's get this over with. Who else survived? Tom Jones, hippie lady, and Egyptian girl made it to Tahoe, and I guess just live amongst the wildlife now. Richie and his grandma received the Medal of Honor for saving the world. Also, Richie gets with the president's daughter out of nowhere, despite her not showing up for 98% of the movie, and him looking like he's at least 10 years older than her. Finally, we see Byron's family attempting to rebuild what remains of their home, as well as one final twist.
You know, the dude had literally no reason to die. He, like, totally could have lived. I was joking! You can't make this stuff up!
Yep, Byron's alive! If I cared about his character or had any functional emotions left, I sure would be feeling something right now. The movie ends with Tom Jones dancing with animals to music I can't play without risk of getting my video taken down.
Oh great, I'm gonna get copyright struck for the ending too!
It's not unusual to see me cry. I wanna die.
Well, that's the film, folks, and like I said, death is a preferable alternative. It is hard to describe how utterly miserable it is to watch this movie. This is the worst waste of an hour and a half that I think I have ever encountered. There is nothing of value here. It is not worth watching for any reason. There is not a fun plot. There is not a single standout performance. There's nothing visually neat. There's nothing really well made. There's no reason to sit down and watch this. You can't even point and laugh at it because nothing here is funny. It's just stupid. Even some of the worst movies I've watched had something that I could find value in. Or at the very least, I could laugh at the disaster I was watching unfold. I think Roger Ebert said it best in his review of the movie. The makers felt superior to the material. To be funny, even Slock has to believe in itself. This movie is trying to be bad, and that does not make for a funny movie. You can't laugh at something that is trying to be a failure. It's not entertaining, it's not amusing, it's just a waste of time. This movie is trying to be something that it fundamentally doesn't understand. It is a horrifying chimera of different influences and stories that all come together to form something worse than the sum of its parts. And maybe I am wrong. Maybe I am taking it too seriously. But that doesn't matter. What matters at the end of the day is whether I think you should take time out of your short life to sit down and watch this. And I do not think that. Don't watch it. Let it rot away and be forgotten forever. Or don't. You're an adult and it's a free country. I don't care what you do.
You can't handle the truth!
Okay, I did it. You happy now?
Oh yes, your suffering was quite amusing. I shall return to my home planet and tell of this meeting.
Great. Say, your massive spaceship over there, does it have like any, defenses or shields or anything?
No, it is totally vulnerable to any form of attack. Why?
I would also like to know why.
No particular reason.
Well, if that is all, then I must go now. Farewell, humans!
Well, I think that went quite well.
Yep, sure did.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Paper bag, tell them to take the shot.
Excuse me?
Now that is good. That feels good, feels right, you know?
I think I'm gonna throw up.
Make sure you watch for debris while you do it.
For what?
See, that was what I was talking about.